What's going on? Boys, today we are talking means and ideals. I'm starting to get my stride back, and I've been thinking about the people we model ourselves after. I think there are two primary reasons I lost my stride. Firstly, professional failure. My doctorate application got rejected. That was completely my fault, but I am not used to that. The second thing is personal failure. That bad night I had a few weeks back. I was not listening to my own advice, and I was falling for my weaknesses that I should have been aware of. One slap of "you are not keen enough to fit into this world," and one slap of "you are too needy and stupid to listen to things you know, information you back." Those two together threw off my plans and the sort of person I was trying to build myself into. Those are the reasons I've been walking around like a panicking mook, I think, but it's starting to back off. What changed to make those feelings back off a bit? Well, firstly, I panic wrote the novelette I was thinking about writing. I don't know how anyone else's creative processes work. Mine functions on impassioned panic. I made a video a while back called "Getting Your Swagger Back," a method of getting out of ruts like these, and holy shit, it actually worked. I wrote the novelette. It's 13,000 words. I finished it in 2 days, and I think I'm happy with how it turned out. It's about heaven, hell, non-existence, and suicide, all set in a cabin in the woods, slasher movie sort of thing. I'm waiting on illustrations now, but I'm considering publishing it now and adding the illustrations later because I am afraid the novelette won't pass Amazon's guidelines, but we'll see. I think it should, but there's always something. Even if it doesn't pass those, I can either edit it or find somewhere else, even though I would like to be publishing on Amazon. I always have reservations about my own work, but I think this one is good. And if it turns out well, this is a new door open. My main issue with writing long fiction novels is they take a long time. I get tired, and I have 20 other ideas while I'm writing one novel. If the novelette goes well, I can keep writing those and getting out the stories I want to write. And I feel better about that as a model because I ran some numbers. If my channel grows to 50,000 subscribers and just 5% of my YouTube audience participates in the novelette thing, that is a nice career without even monetizing the channel. If 3% of my audience at 50,000 subscribers participates in the novelette thing, that is a sustainable career without monetizing the channel, after taxes, and without a goddamned 9 to 5 in there. Now, even 3% audience participation is optimistic, but I never thought my channel would break 500 subscribers. That was an unexpected and pleasant surprise, and I think planting seeds now makes pleasant surprises more likely in the future, because it's not like these published novelettes would be going away. And the Amazon bestsellers on the high end sell 5,000 copies. So if I can get one novelette to sell around 1,000 copies, or even maybe make 1,000 copies sold a consistent number, that would be enough to get that algorithm working for me. Even if it doesn't, after taxes, if I can hit that number consistently, that's $2,000 for 2 days' work. And it doesn't feel like a scam or manipulating an audience, because even though I have reservations about my work, I know it's readable. It's even maybe a little more than readable. In the ideal world, it would be cool to build a market for quaint, easy, pick up, put down reading. Because depending on your reading speed, one of my novelettes takes around an hour to read, right? I aim for quaint and cozy. What's cozier than a little itty bitty book you can pick up and read on a rainy afternoon after work, written by your dearest parasocial boy? Not even parasitic parasocial boy, symbiotic parasocial boy. It's cozy. It's coffee house, boys. I already have a ton of ideas for little novelettes I can write, and at that length, I don't have to worry about dragging them out for 60,000 plus words. 13,000 is manageable for any idea. I have the 4 setups for one larger novel planned. Already have those planned out, can write them no problem. And I have an idea for some short MBTI based satirical erotica. 1 for the memes, 2 because while I'm on a high before we sink back down into hell, I think I could do it justice while mocking a particular type dynamic. Now, why am I explaining all this? Because it links back into the getting your swagger back thing. Focusing on something you know you can do to prove to yourself you can accomplish something. That's one of the first steps to getting back on your feet. I'm finding is true, that is the case. And 2, I think if you plan for failure, expect the worst, but still see how you can pull out some success even in that failure, that is a decent elevation plan. One of the reasons I was panicking was, so far, life has been a series of getting into something, hearing, just stick with it, it'll pay off and things will get better, and then you finish it and things haven't gotten better, and then you get on the next ride, hear the exact same things, and then it goes the exact same way, and then you queue up to do it again. Except this time, there wouldn't be an exact set time frame or exact set skills outcomes guaranteed. That's spooky to me because if I don't have something clear to move toward, I get comfortable because I'm scared and then I don't want to move, and without a set end point, that's wherever I end up, that is exactly where I will stay forever. YouTube and self-publishing are pulling it out for me because even if I end up somewhere, there is not stagnation. This plan, this design, is operating in the background, and even in relative failure, it is built to succeed. Instead of active hunting, with the insecurity and instability that brings, this is setting up lots of little snares. So many authors die, then get famous, but I think we have the means now to get famous while we're alive and get it sooner than later. I don't want to end up like Lovecraft, a fucking nobody, getting sick and dying, and then having Redditors jump all over it afterward. If this goes to plan, I'll need only 3 people out of every 100 to like my work, not necessarily even me, to build a sustainable life, choosing when I want to wake up. That's one of my favorite quotes by Mitch Hedberg. Success is choosing when you wake up. If I can pull this off over the next 10 years, and I think my stories will cooperate with me enough to let that happen, I'll be able to stop missing out on memories. I'll be able to start working myself into my ideal self and out of my means/methods self, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Skimmerlit, you're missing out on memories. Why don't you make friends? Because friends stab you in the back and hold you down. Skimmerlit, why don't you go to these different places or go to a festival? Because bad things happen out there, and I have classes to worry about. Skimmerlit, why don't you find someone to settle down with? I've tried that. Everyone wants to fuck around. Nobody has priorities, nobody wants to get anywhere, nobody knows what they want. I recognize my views on these things are making me miss out on things, but I've been stuck before. I don't want to be stuck again, and if I can get unstuck enough, I'll be able to make up for all that lost time with all my free time in the future. I don't understand how people are able to have good friends, good times, and good relationships without an excessive amount of time to ensure you get them right. I don't understand it. Those ideas lead us into means versus ideals, sorts of people you use, sorts of people you would like to be, both sorts of people you model yourself after. I've been walking around the last few weeks like a schizo, toothless, snidely whiplash, trying to figure out the means archetype I need to use to get where I want to be, and the ideals archetype I want to become in the end. When I was a kid, they were one and the same, and neither worked. Business, toughness, confused ideas about what masculinity is, homosexuality disguised as brotherliness, but nobody will say that's what it is, but it's fucking gay, and everyone is afraid of saying that. Art, thinking, individuality, bad. You aren't allowed to be an individual until you've proven you can conform with the mass to the point you don't need individuality. At that point, it's just something you have. You don't take seriously. Business, good. Production, good. The whole, good. The tribe, good. That didn't work, and it left me confused for a long time. And since childhood, I've been negotiating the sort of person I need to be to get where I want to be, and the sort of person I want to be in the end. Both have gone through many iterations, but I think that's what the dumb Snidely Whiplash recent thing is. I think it was a confused return to that childhood archetype of both means and ideals. But it didn't work then, it certainly isn't working now, and that's what's been generating the panic. Returning to something that doesn't work to try to fix things that aren't working. Which is why it's toothless. And that toothlessness compounds that anxiety even further because you're doing it and you know it's not working, but you're still doing it because you don't have anything else to do. But now that things have become a little clearer, I think we've hammered out the means archetypes and the ideals archetypes. Means is still salesman, but it's not a shoddy attempt at manipulation. It's having a saleable product or skill set and the means to sell it. In that camp, you have a bunch of comedians. Patrice, of course, but also Colin Quinn. Maybe more importantly, Colin Quinn. People like Jim Norton, Bob Kelly, and even Rich Voss. They're all grimy the way I like, but they have crafts and viewpoints. All of them have the ability to do things, and they developed that ability by harnessing their crafts. They are allowed to get where they want to be in life by entertaining people, and every single one of them, besides maybe Rich, has built their own audience, hammered it into the fabric of reality, hammered space for it. Patrice, even after his death, still has the cult of Black Phillip. That is a movement that hasn't died and will not die. We aren't going to let it die. Jim Norton talked about queer issues before that was really an acceptable thing, and he made it acceptable using comedy and made it okay for himself to live the way he wanted to live. Bob Kelly, a juvenile delinquent, an orphan, now runs Riotcast, podcasting network, has a family, is a family man. He built the foundations other people used to succeed. Colin Quinn, I think he's an ENTJ. I think he's a weird ENTJ, and I want to make a video about him and typology in particular, but he dragged his friends, young nobody comics, into relevance by his own work, and then when society took his show away, tough crowd, and said we don't want comics saying anything honestly, anything, not one particular viewpoint. When you say honest, usually you mean a particular set of political beliefs, but in Colin's case, that isn't the case. It was getting everybody on board to talk shit and fling shit about anything the way they wanted to. Society said we don't want that. He started doing one-man shows talking about the stuff he wanted to talk about. I will link long story short in the description. It is Colin's retelling of human history and major cultures and how they fit together in a comedic, trying to bring people together way. It's good, and he's one of my favorites. As for Rich Voss, he is a testament to being able to make it without making it. He has Roach-like success in the sense nothing can kill him, and that is a neat proof of concept. They are the means archetypes. Grimy showman, harnessing talent. If a market doesn't exist for the sort of person you are, and you believe whatever you have is marketable, keep doing it, and eventually that market will form. It's like that ripples thing we talked about, except now instead of water, it is sand with an antlion. Keep wiggling and spinning around, and eventually you'll dig yourself a nice pit. Then we have the ideals archetypes. I've had models for these for a long time, but it's easy to forget in panic. My mother and her father are the two ideals I think I've had the longest. There are others, but we'll talk about those two first. Warm, smart, and motherly fatherly. My mother and my grandfather on my mother's side are two hyper-resilient people, were in my grandfather's case, but they are also warm. They're smart, they're tricky. My grandfather lied about his age to join the Navy during World War II. Once he got out, he started flying, and he flew longer than he should have because he, at a point, couldn't pass eye exams anymore. So what he did was memorize each tier of the reading tests and could recite them from memory. He could fake perfect eyesight, and he kept flying doing that. He recognized land was not going to be easy to come by in the coming decades, so he went out on a limb and managed to get a bunch of land. Now, he did not foresee eminent domain being what it is, and the idea the government can just take your land from you if they choose to. But he foresaw what he foresaw, and he tried for his family. Always trying to teach my young, stupid ass, not listening ass, not comprehending ass things. I remember when I was 3 or 4, he was trying to teach me time, and he got this special pocket watch, and he told me once I was able to tell time on it, he would give it to me. And I didn't learn time until years later. He tried to teach me the basics of a few different languages, stuff he picked up during the war, stuff he thought would be useful, and maybe it would be useful if I could remember any of it. I still like learning languages based on the time he and I spent together, but Jesus Christ, I did 4 years of Spanish and I can't speak Spanish, barely remember any of it. 2 years of Japanese, barely remember any of that. I still like learning languages because they're tools for framing the way your brain works, but none of it's stuck. That doesn't matter. He tried, and that's what matters. And I remember he liked ginger ale and saltines, and we would sit there with ginger ale and saltines with a globe, and he would point to different countries and try to tell me things about all the different countries. And that was interesting, but I remember, the only thing I remember is either the ice bridge or the land bridge between Alaska and Russia, I think it was. I remember that stuck out for some reason because it didn't make any sense to me. But that was, to me, that was my grandfather, always trying to teach me things. Using a calculator is the devil. Try to figure out how much you owe in taxes before a cashier rings you up. Count your miles. When GPS came around, fuck GPSs, here's a map, you need to know how to use a map. He had riddles, he had magic tricks. When he would pick me up from school, he would do magic tricks for the kids in my after-school program, and he would sit up in town, because our small town used to be an actual small town, and there would be homeless people around, Weird for a small town, I know, but it happens. The South is a weird place. And he would speak with homeless people, buy him food, give him money, that sort of thing. And he would just sit up there and watch cars and smoke his pipe. And he was a cowboy, but he was fucking smart. And he tried to give me that. And then there's my mother, a little different, but similar. She is somehow able to put things behind her. Once something is done, it's done, and she doesn't dwell on it. I don't know how she does it. One of the only people I trust, her life has been a series of getting stabbed in the back over and over and over again. But somehow she manages not to let any of those things bother her, or at least keep her from where she wants to be, and she's finally gotten to where she seems to want to be. She seems happy where she is now. And I think in that line of genes, there's something about becoming something different. My grandfather, cowboy, came from New York originally. He grew up during the Depression. He said he wanted to become a cowboy, and he became a cowboy. He became something completely different. Learned horses, learned cows, started trucking, all sorts of stuff. My mother grew up in the South. Stayed in that same vein, but dressed completely unsouthernly. Nose rings before those were a thing. Septum piercings before those were a thing. Black wedding dress. You get the idea. When I think about them, I feel a little less bad doing what I do, what I feel inclined to do. Not septum piercings, obviously, but things in that vein. They both were always warm. They had knowledge and useful life lessons to impart. They gave me the best information they could, always helped me get where I wanted to go, and never made me feel ashamed of being the sort of person I was. Those are two archetypes worth emulating. But then we have more. Let's look at fiction. Media is the best place. Stories are the best things to learn from, especially fiction, because everything we do is framed in our minds by language as narratives. I'll list two I've been thinking about the last few months, but there are tons of others. First one is Tours from Vinland Saga. Same sort of deal as the former two. Calm, knowledgeable, loving, fatherly. Everything he does is for his family. Understanding and aspiring toward nonviolence. Huge shift in character with a shift of priorities towards something better. Doing the right things and taking care of people. If you've never watched Vinland Saga, I highly recommend it. If you like typology, I recommend it on that front too, because there are no better ISTPs, ENTPs, ISFPs, and I'll argue INFJs in Vinland Saga than there are in most other media. The other one is Chief from Nomad, which is Megalobox Season 2. Great set of series. First one is good, Megalobox Season 1 is good. If you like classic hero stories with twists. There are enough twists in there I wasn't expecting them. It felt fresh while still feeling familiar. I kind of like that familiarity. Megalobox Season 2, oh Jesus. If you've ever been in that sort of position in life, Nomad is worth watching. It's worth watching even if you haven't, but if you have, ooh. And Chief as a character in there is great. Similar to Tours, but a bit reversed, functionally speaking. The sort of person worth aspiring to be. Completely recommend Megalobox, Season 1, Season 2. Vinland Saga also. They're all tremendous. So, in summary, heroic archetypes of means and methods to deliver you with harnessed skill to archetypes of ideals and aspirations. You model yourself after people who can do things and become someone who can do things in whatever your sense of doing things is, and then you use the things you've gained to become the person or sort of person worth being. You might think, well, why don't you start with becoming the aspirational person? That seems like it could work, but to me, having things seems like it makes becoming that ideal sort of person a lot easier. I think we can get there. As long as we're planting seeds, even failure will get us where we want to go eventually. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. Everything is going to come falling apart again at some point, but until that happens, this is the system we are rolling with. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes, and comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. What or who are your means and ideals archetypes? I would be interested to hear, and why. But thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you can sprinkle the fun over some iced lemonade with strawberries, and it will taste the way it's supposed to taste. Not like fear that doesn't quench your thirst, at least for now. At least for now. That's how much fun we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.